Hi, I'm Melanie, and this Thanksgiving, I learned what it feels like to disappear while standing in the middle of your own kitchen. I didn't expect applause, but I didn't expect to be erased either. The oven door clicked shut behind me for the third time that morning, and I adjusted the foil on the roasting pan with the same care I used when bandaging my mother's wrist last winter. The kitchen smelled like browned butter and thyme. The cranberry sauce had already cooled in its heirloom glass bowl, and the sweet potato casserole was tucked under a clean dish towel like a secret I had to protect. My mother was upstairs doing her hair. My sister, not even in the house yet. Every year I made the same promise to myself. This would be the last Thanksgiving I hosted, and every year I broke it. Out of guilt, out of habit, out of some desperate loyalty I couldn't quite name. But this year was different. The food wasn't just food, it was legacy. Every recipe I cooked had been passed down from my grandmother, handwritten in fading ink on index cards. I had laminated them years ago to keep them from disintegrating, though part of me wondered if I should have just let them rot. Maybe then they'd stop being used by people who never learned to value them. From the living room, I could already hear the laughter start. My mother's voice floated through the vent above the stovetop, light, excited, performative. She should be here any minute. You know Tasha, always the star of the show. The corner of my mouth pulled tight. I turned off the stovetop burner and leaned on the counter for a moment, letting the weight of the moment rest in my spine. Tasha always made a late entrance. Glossy hair, expensive shoes, no casserole in hand, but with a story and a smile and a camera-ready laugh that seemed to make everyone forget everything else. The guests were family and a few neighborhood regulars, people who, over the years, had watched me carry this family through one crisis after another without once being publicly acknowledged for it. I didn't mind not being the center of attention. I just didn't expect to be invisible. A soft knock came from the back door. I wiped my hands and opened it. Tasha breezed in, cheeks kissed with the kind of blush that only comes from retail therapy or a skilled esthetician. She held a single bottle of red wine, loosely wrapped in a paper bag. "Tell me that's the sweet potato one with the marshmallow crust," she said, already leaning over the stove like a judge at a cooking show. "I made both kinds. Some of the kids don't like the marshmallows." Tasha grinned. "Wow, you always go all out, don't you?" It wasn't a compliment, it was amusement. I didn't answer, just stepped aside to let her pass, as she clicked across the tile floor in heels too high for a hardwood house. She didn't ask if she could help. She never did. 10 minutes later, I stood alone in the kitchen, drying my hands on a towel, already damp from repeated use. From the other room came a wave of applause, followed by my mother's voice, clear and proud. "This whole meal? All thanks to my Tasha. She really pulled it together this year, didn't she?" Laughter, more applause. Someone clinked a wine glass. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I just stared at the sink, where my grandmother's old mixing bowl sat half submerged in soapy water. The towel fell from my hand and landed in the basin with a soft splash. They knew I was in the next room, that I had cooked every dish on the table, that I had grocery shopped for 3 hours, then cooked for 2 days, after cleaning a house that didn't belong to me anymore. Still, not one person stood up to say, "Actually, Melanie did all of this." But the worst part wasn't the lie, it was how comfortable they all were with it. Later, as I loaded empty plates into the dishwasher alone, I replayed the moment in my mind. My sister lifting her glass, my mother smiling like she'd just watched her favorite movie. Nobody looked toward the kitchen, nobody even thought to. That night, as I sat on the back porch with a cooling cup of coffee and the kind of stillness that feels more like absence than peace, I realized something. They weren't forgetting me. They never remembered me in the first place. Have you ever been the one behind the scenes when someone else took your spotlight? The morning after Thanksgiving, the house smelled like citrus disinfectant and shame. I was up early, as usual, rinsing out roasting pans and scraping hardened bits of sweet potato from ceramic dishes. Outside, the wind shook the last leaves off the maple tree in the yard. Inside, no one had said a word about last night, not about the meal, not about the applause that went to the wrong person, and certainly not about me. My mother entered the kitchen, wearing her robe and slippers, like it was any other Friday. She glanced around like she'd forgotten something, then gave a faint, approving nod. "Looks nice in here." I kept wiping the counter. "Tasha's coming to pick up leftovers." She poured herself coffee. "In a bit, you should heat up some of the pie. We have that nice paper box from the bakery, the one with the ribbon." She meant the box Tasha brought with store-bought cookies. Cookies no one touched. "I'll be fine," I said. She took a sip and didn't look at me. "You're still upset." I didn't answer. She didn't mean anything by the toast. "You know how she is." "That's the problem," I said. "We all know how she is. And we all pretend it's fine." She put the mug down, harder than necessary. "You're being petty, Melanie. Again. You always take things too personally." No apology, just correction. As if being dismissed in front of 24 people wasn't real, because it hadn't drawn blood. Around 10:15, Tasha arrived in a car that didn't look like hers. A man stepped out of the passenger seat, early 30s, crisp beard, designer jacket. I'd never seen him before. She didn't introduce him when they came inside, just waved vaguely and said, "This is Adam." Then to him, "It'll just be a second." I was standing at the kitchen sink, again, refilling the water pitcher. "Hey," she said, a little too brightly. "Mom said you packed up the food already." "Most of it." She opened the fridge, shuffled things around like she lived here. "Thanks again. I didn't get a chance to say anything yesterday, but everything tasted amazing. Really, everyone was impressed." She turned around and leaned on the door. "Adam's a producer. He works in branded content, short-form lifestyle stuff. You should meet him." He smiled politely, but kept his eyes on his phone. "She's got some great holiday content ideas," Tasha added, talking to him, not me. "My sister's the one who keeps all the old family recipes alive. Isn't that right, Mel?" I nodded. "I've kept them alive because no one else cared to learn them." Tasha laughed like it was a joke. She pulled out a mason jar of cranberry sauce, my grandmother's recipe, and handed it to Adam. "Smell this. It's pure nostalgia." He sniffed and made a face. "Kinda sour." "That's the citrus rind," I said. He raised his eyebrows like I'd offended him, then turned away and said, "Anyway, we should go." Meeting in an hour, Tasha grabbed a few more containers and flashed a quick smile. "Thanks again, Mel. I'll tag you if I post anything, okay?" "You won't," I said, too low for her to hear. That afternoon, my mother asked me to go to the pharmacy to pick up a refill for her thyroid meds. I agreed, partly because I needed air, and partly because errands felt easier than conversations. I parked outside the drugstore and sat for a minute. The town was decorated already. Gold garland strung across lampposts, a plastic snowman outside the fire station. I remembered when I used to help paint the storefront windows as a teenager, volunteering during winter break while Tasha flew off to Cancun with her friend's family. I walked inside, waited in line, and when it was finally my turn, the pharmacy tech, Lori, who'd gone to high school with me, gave me a crooked smile. "Melanie," she said, "saw you in that Thanksgiving post. Your sister's, right?" I blinked. "What post?" She turned her screen toward me, an Instagram story, a slow pan of the dining table from the night before. Tasha's voice, saying, "Pulled this off between back-to-back meetings. Worth it. No mention of me, not even a tag." "She's such a powerhouse," Lori said, ringing up the prescription. I paid and walked out without saying another word. When I got home, the doorbell rang almost immediately. It was Mrs. Green, my mother's church friend, the kind of woman who wore cardigans with beaded collars and believed in casseroles more than therapy. "I just had to stop by," she said, holding out a small plate of cookies. "Tasha's video was lovely. You must be so proud of her." I stared at her. "I am. She's really something. Like her mother, you know, big personality, charisma, makes a room light up." She handed me the cookies. "And you, dear, you're the heart of the house, the one who keeps it all running." That's just as important. But it didn't feel important. It felt like being handed a participation trophy at your own funeral. When she left, I stood in the doorway a long time, holding a plate of someone else's praise, wrapped in someone else's ribbon. And for the first time, I felt it. Not just the hurt, but the beginning of something else. Something sharp. Something that didn't want to be swallowed anymore. Have you ever heard a compliment that felt more like a cage? I sat down on the floorboards, surrounded by plastic bins labeled in my handwriting. Xmas, ornaments, grandma's dishes, Thanksgiving linens. I had packed every holiday in this attic for the last 10 years, boxed them, cleaned them, labeled them, then unboxed them again when the same people who forgot to thank me wanted their traditions to look perfect. The photo album was beneath the Easter wreath, a thick, dusty burgundy binder with brass corners that used to shine. I opened it, expecting comfort, maybe nostalgia. What I found was absence. Birthday parties, graduations, vacations to Myrtle Beach. Every page had a star in the center, and it was never me. Tasha, blowing out candles. Tasha, holding trophies. Tasha next to our father, beaming. Me, off to the side, holding a camera, cleaning up a mess in the background. A blurred silhouette, standing in the doorway. On page 17, there was a picture of me holding a tray of cookies, wearing an apron that said, Holiday Elf. I remembered that day clearly. I had baked for hours. The caption read, Melanie keeping the kitchen going. Not Melanie made these. Not Melanie saved the event when the power went out. Just keeping it going. I closed the album. The weight in my chest wasn't from anger. It was from recognition. That was my role. The support beam no one painted. The cord that powered the lights but never got unplugged for maintenance. Not because anyone forgot, because they never looked. That afternoon, I went to the school where I used to teach, just to drop off a book I'd borrowed from a colleague. I hadn't stepped inside the building since I took a leave of absence to care for my mother after her surgery. What was supposed to be 6 weeks had quietly stretched into 2 years. The secretary recognized me immediately. Melanie, she called. It's good to see you. She buzzed me in. I waved at a few former coworkers in the hallway. Smiles, short hugs, the way people act when they don't know what to say to someone who gave something up and never got it back. In the teacher's lounge, I found Mrs. Gable, the history teacher. She looked up from her tea. You're a ghost, she said, half joking. Still home full time? I nodded. Yeah, Mom's recovery took longer than we thought. She's lucky to have you, she said, but then frowned. You were one of the best teachers here. You know that, right? I shrugged. Family needed me. And what about you? I didn't have an answer, not one that didn't sound like an apology. On the way out, I stopped by my old classroom. A new name was taped to the door, someone else's handwriting. I glanced through the window. The desks were in the same arrangement. The bookshelf I'd built with my own tools was still there. I turned away before anyone noticed me. At home that evening, I pulled down the recipe box, not the copy Tasha had used, when she submitted my stuffing recipe to that holiday contest, and won 3rd place without crediting me, not even once. This was the original, the one with the green elastic around it, and my grandmother's handwriting smudged by olive oil and thyme. I opened the box and started flipping through the cards. My own handwriting was mixed in now. Additions, notes, tweaks. I had rewritten half the instructions over the years to make them clearer. All the things Grandma used to guess at, I had tested, timed, measured, but no one knew that, and no one cared to ask. At the bottom of the stack, tucked between buttermilk cornbread and apple crisp with nutmeg, was something unexpected. A folded piece of notebook paper, my writing, my voice. 15 years younger. One day I'll open a bakery, just a little one, with ribbon-tied boxes and tiny pies and fresh cinnamon rolls in the window. I'll name it after Grandma. I'll wear an apron that says my name. Not helper, not fill-in, just Melanie. I read it 3 times. I don't remember writing it, but I remember wanting it. I sat there, floor cold against my legs, and felt something click into place. A dull, almost imperceptible shift, like hearing the first crack in a frozen lake before it breaks. I didn't cry, I didn't rage, but something inside me whispered, "They stole your name, and you let them. Until now. What did you give up for the people who barely remember what you gave?" The video wasn't supposed to go viral. At least that's what I told myself. I uploaded it on impulse, a quiet resistance, no music, no filters, just raw footage from the kitchen camera I'd set up weeks ago to record a cooking tutorial I never had the time or courage to finish. The clip ran under 2 minutes, me basting the turkey at 4 a.m., hand-whisking the gravy while Tasha arrived with wine and a story. It cut to the moment of the toast, the applause, the camera still trained on the sink where I stood, my hands dripping, my face unreadable. I added a single caption before I hit upload. "This is what it looks like when love isn't returned." I left it alone. I didn't check for likes or comments. I didn't send it to anyone. I went to bed thinking maybe 10 people would see it, people who already knew the truth, but didn't care enough to say it out loud. By morning, the video had been viewed over 18,000 times. By mid-afternoon, it had crossed 70,000. And by evening, my phone was a grenade of notifications. I didn't respond to anyone that day, not to the friends from college texting, "Is this about your sister?" or the neighbor who tagged me in a Facebook thread titled, "Thanksgiving Labor is Real." But I did open my inbox and found an email from a woman in Montana who wrote, "I saw you. For the first time, I felt seen too. Thank you." I read that line 10 times. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't moved, because I was angry. It took strangers to recognize what my family never did. Tasha showed up at my door the next evening, unannounced, with a calm face that could have passed for kindness if I hadn't known her for so long. I opened the door, just enough to block the view inside. "You posted a video," she said, flat. No hello, no questions, just indictment. I did. Her lips twitched. "Why?" "Because it happened." She shifted her weight. "You made me look awful. I didn't make you say the toast. I didn't make them clap." Her voice dropped. "Do you know what people are saying about me online? Do you have any idea what this could do to my job? Do you have any idea what the last 20 years have done to me?" That stopped her, just for a second. Long enough to see the flicker of confusion in her eyes, like she'd genuinely never thought of it. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. "You could have just talked to me." I exhaled through my nose. "I've been talking to you for decades, Tasha. You just thought it was me being dramatic, or sensitive, or jealous. You are jealous." The silence that followed was not empty. It was surgical. I stepped aside, opened the door fully, and gestured toward the dining table where I'd laid out the remnants of our grandmother's recipe box. "Do you remember these?" She looked, said nothing. "Do you remember learning how to make the cranberry sauce?" I continued. "Not from Mom, from me. When she was in bed with pneumonia and you were supposed to be flying home but didn't." She didn't answer. I walked to the table, picked up one of the cards. My handwriting. "This is what you submitted to Magnolia Living." I gave credit to the family. You gave credit to yourself. You said it came from Mom. You said you made it every year. You wrote yourself into a story you weren't even present for. Her mouth parted like she was going to argue, then shut again. "I kept quiet when you took the recipes. I kept quiet when you posted my decorations, as if they were yours. I even kept quiet when Mom put your name on the donation plaque I paid for. But this?" I tapped the phone on the table, screen lit with a paused frame of the video. "This was mine. My silence, my effort, my humiliation. So yes, I shared it. This could cost me everything." "No, Tasha," I said. "It might finally cost you me." She left without slamming the door, which somehow made it worse. That night, my mother called. Her voice was sweet, too sweet. "I'm sure you didn't mean to cause all this." "I did." Silence. She sighed. "You're being very emotional. This isn't like you. It's exactly like me. You've just never cared to notice." "Melanie, I'm not coming to the Christmas gathering." More silence. And then, sharp. Don't make this bigger than it is. I'm not. You did. The video crossed 200,000 views by midnight. A journalist from an online magazine reached out, asking if I'd share more of my story, specifically about the emotional labor of daughters during the holidays. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. Instead, I opened my notes app and wrote, "People always say the truth sets you free, but sometimes it just burns the bridge you never realized you were already walking away from. And maybe that was okay. What happens when the bridge burns, but you finally realize you built wings instead?" It was 2 days before December when I got the group text from Mom. "Family meeting this Saturday at 3. Important to clear the air. Please come." No, Melanie. No, would you be open to? Just a directive. The kind you obey, or you're punished for not obeying. I didn't reply. An hour later, Tasha followed up individually. "We just want to move forward, don't you?" I stared at her message until the screen dimmed, then set the phone down and opened the window to let in air that didn't feel like obligation. Saturday came fast, too fast. I parked 2 houses down and walked in with a pie in a bakery box, not homemade, not even warmed. It wasn't meant to be thoughtful. It was armor. Inside, the house looked like a staged intervention. My mother sat primly on the couch in her pearls, flanked by Tasha and Uncle Ken, who lived 3 towns over and hadn't visited since Dad's funeral. Tasha was dressed in beige, the kind of outfit meant to soften a message before it was delivered. "Thanks for coming," she said, as if I'd been invited to tea. I sat in the only chair without a cushion. My mother folded her hands. "We thought it was important to have a face-to-face." I looked at them, this trio of curated expressions, and waited. I wasn't going to fill the silence they'd designed to guilt me. Uncle Ken cleared his throat. "We all saw the video, Mel, and, well, families go through rough patches, but broadcasting things online like that, that's private business." Tasha jumped in. "It really hurt Mom, and it made a lot of people think things that aren't true." "Which part wasn't true?" I asked. Silence. I leaned forward. "That I cooked the meal, that I was left out of the toast, that no one even looked in my direction when the applause started." "That's not the point," my mother snapped. Her pearls shifted. "The point is, you took something that should have stayed in this house and made it public." "No," I said. "You made it public." I just stopped deleting myself from the story. Tasha stood up. "We're giving you the opportunity to fix this." I smiled, flat and tired. "By apologizing to you, by taking down the video," my mother said, "and writing something clear, saying it was a misunderstanding, that you overreacted." There it was, the real ask. Not for reconciliation, for retraction, for self-erasure, dressed as unity. "I won't," I said. "You're making this so much harder than it has to be," Tasha muttered. "No," I said. "I'm just not making it easy anymore." That night, I sat in my old bedroom. Now storage for holiday clutter and broken lamps no one wanted to throw out. I had gone in there to look for a folder from my teaching days, something I needed to update my resume. Instead, I found a sealed envelope at the back of a drawer. It was a card, my name on the front. Inside was a letter from my father, dated 10 years ago. The handwriting was uneven. He must have written it after his second surgery. "Mel, I see what you do. Even when no one else says it, I see it. You take care of this family. You hold us up. I know I've never said it the right way, but I want you to know you are not invisible to me." I sat with it in my lap for a long time. My father had been the only person who ever told me that, without needing me to shrink in return. He was the only one who saw the version of me that wasn't carrying something for someone else. The next morning, I wrote an email to the journalist who had reached out earlier. "If you're still interested in the story, I'm ready to talk." I hit send. Then I deleted the family group chat. "What would it take for you to stop apologizing for your truth?" The article was published 3 days before Christmas. It was simple, thoughtful, titled, "The Invisible Daughter, When Family Means Work Without Credit." There were no names, no faces, no direct quotes from my video. Just my voice, woven through stories of women who had carried their families like scaffolding. Necessary, weight-bearing, never seen. I didn't promote it, but it spread anyway, and it was enough that Tasha knew it was me. She sent a single email, not a call, not even a text. You said you didn't want attention. Now you're bathing in it. I stared at the line for a while, then replied, I never wanted attention. I wanted acknowledgement. You confused the two because you've always had both. I archived the thread permanently. On Christmas morning, I didn't go to my mother's house. I hosted a small brunch instead. Just me, two co-workers from my old school, and a neighbor I'd bonded with over shared silence and wine. I made cinnamon rolls, not my grandmother's recipe, mine. We ate on mismatched plates. The folding chairs wobbled. No one made a toast. No one needed to. Around 2 p.m., my phone buzzed with a call from my mother. I let it ring, then again, and again. I didn't answer. The voicemail came through 30 seconds later. I played it once. Melanie, it's Christmas. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but family is family. You don't get to rewrite that just because the internet loves a sob story. I deleted it because she was wrong. I wasn't rewriting the story. I was writing mine for the first time. In January, I filed paperwork to reopen my teaching license. A school across town was looking for a literacy coordinator. It wasn't a classroom job, but it was a start. During the interview, the principal asked what had brought me back into education. I said, I remembered who I was before they told me who I should be. He smiled. I got the job. By February, the video had passed 3 million views. I never posted another. I didn't need to. I began hosting small Sunday tables at my home. Gatherings of women, some from online, others local. No labels, no themes, just food and conversation. At the first one, a woman named Eliza brought hand pies and cried when she said, I thought I was the only one who got cut out of the toast. I didn't comfort her. I handed her a plate and said, You're at the table now. In April, I ran into Tasha at the post office. Her hair was shorter, her coat expensive. She looked tired in a way I didn't envy. She didn't greet me, but before she turned away, she said quietly, Mom's not doing well. I nodded. Let me know if she needs anything urgent. She blinked, surprised. That's it? I'm not cruel, I said. I'm just done bleeding quietly. Tasha looked at me for a long time. Then she left. On Mother's Day, I mailed a card, blank inside, no return address. I don't know why I did it. Maybe closure doesn't come in grand gestures. Maybe it's the small choices, what you send, what you don't say, what you let go of. By summer, the dining table in my house was filled every weekend, not with family, but with people who had chosen me and whom I had chosen back. Friends, students, women who had been erased and decided not to stay silent about it anymore. The table was mismatched, the laughter was real, the recipes were mine, and no one clapped at the end of the meal. They just stayed to help with dishes. Sometimes reclaiming your place doesn't mean demanding a seat at their table. It means building your own and deciding who's welcome. Sometimes it's not the loud fights or slammed doors that change your life. It's the quiet moments when you finally choose yourself. I learned that setting boundaries doesn't mean closing your heart. It means opening a door to your own peace. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I hope this story reminded you that your voice matters, even if they never asked to hear it. If this video touched something in you, let me know where you're watching from or what part stayed with you the most. And if it didn't, tell me why. I want to hear your truth too. If you've made it this far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that honor your strength, your silence, and your comeback.